Hi guys, and welcome to my review for the ZIIGAAT X Fresh Reviews ARETE 2. This is the second collaboration between Fresh Reviews and ZIIGAAT. Obviously the name ARETE 2 is an allusion to that. The original one was the ARETE 1 plus 4 IM, as is this one, but in the ARETE 2 they've changed a few things. They've redefined the tuning in terms of the upper frequencies around 4 to 6, 7K. They've redone that section of the spectrum. And they've also done, or given the actual IM, which I'll show it to you in a second, they've given the actual IM a switch, a bass switch, which confers two bass level intensities. The bass, let's say, profile is the same, just different intensities. Anyway, as for the box, the usual ZIIGAAT stuff, nice, solid, looks the part, looks the business, does give the product its deserved attention, let's put it that way. It brings an ample amount of accessories. Nice case, not the most pocketable of cases, but it is a nice size. It does fit everything inside, even possibly a dongle or anything. Good selection of tips, nothing to be said there. As for the IM itself, and let's go by parts. As for the cable, first of all, I would have liked a nicer cable. I'll be straight to the point and say that. I mean, we are talking about a $279 IM. This cable, okay, it's got the exchangeable termination, but even the wire doesn't look properly integrated into the size of the actual plug. A nicer cable would have been nice. This is $279. Come on, it's deserving of that, especially if we are, when we do collaborations or not, but especially if we want to establish ourselves as a premium brand, or a brand that is walking towards that pretension of being a premium brand. That then brings us, and that's let's say the one criticism that okay, fine, we could still deal with that one. Now, the other criticism which I have, and the rest won't be criticisms, mind you, is with regards to the aesthetics of the ARETE 2. The build quality is good, it's solid, it's the usual ZIIGAAT, nice resin shell. I mean, it looks the business, it looks the part, nothing to be said there, okay? Now, the faceplate is something which I just don't understand. Why have they decided to go this way? Fine, they wanted to do something a little bit different, okay, but something a little bit different doesn't necessarily mean that it has to look a little bit on the cheap side, and that's what happens here. All of ZIIGAAT products, I have to say, one of the things that impresses me is they are able to look the part, they are able to look the business. You look at the faceplate designs, the way that they do with all the sparkles and all the stuff that they use, be it, like I said, the original ARETE, or be it here the Odyssey 2, which I brought out as well, okay, or the Australia, which was also another collaboration, or even the Horizon, which I've also got over here, okay, focus, there we go. They all confer these respective IMs a very solid look, a look which exudes more value than what they actually are. And the ARETE 2 is $279. And $279 in my books at least means that I want to look at the IM, and I want, or if people look at the IM in my ears, they must say, wow, those IMs, they look nice, they look really, what are they? And no, the way that this faceplate was done looks very cheap, very, very cheap. I'm sorry, and I hope Fresh Reviews and ZIIGAAT don't take this as a negative criticism, but as a positive criticism. Just this doesn't do the IM justice. End of story. No, sorry guys, you did everything else right, the sound is phenomenal, and I'm jumping ahead here, but this, no. Anyway, that out of the way, let's talk now what we want to know, which is, what does the ARETE 2 sound like? What does it how does it compare to the original? How does it compare to other, or some of these products that I brought out here to kind of position it, compare it with? And again, let me just quickly run by what I've got here. So I've got here the Odyssey 2, the collaboration with Clinical. I've got here the original ARETE, obviously. I've got here the Australia, a collaboration with J Audio, and I've got here the Horizon, which is for me probably, when I try and tick all the boxes, and this is probably the best IM that ZIIGAAT has got, or has made to date. I think it's the IM that will satisfy the most people. Okay, now in terms of values, 279, the original was 249, the Australia is 299, this is 329, and this is 249. So they all kind of sit around the same sort of values, the same sort of price. Now, sound, okay, and I've said already before, and I just mentioned, phenomenal. And yes, it is. The Arete 2 is very much the marriage of the Estrella and the original Arete. And it's a very smartly done, very intelligent marriage. What have they done? The bass switch here on the Arete 2 gives the Arete 2 the same bass performance as the Estrella. And when I show you the graphs, you'll see it is exactly the same. Same bass curve, same bass, everything. Exactly the same. And they've redone the tuning of that upper mids treble section of the Arete 2 from 4 to 8K more or less. They've redone it. They've brought it down in terms of energy level, and that was a very smart move. Why? Because in the original Arete, it was a nice sounding IEM, very detailed, no doubt about that. But on occasion, the original Arete would sound just a little bit. I'm not going to say aggressive, but a little bit unnecessarily colored, and that made it become a little bit fatiguing. Also, because of that extra energy that they gave in that part of the spectrum there around 4 to 8K, it did mean that the Arete wasn't an IM that I would necessarily say scaled well. It played really well at lower volumes, played really well at mid volumes, but when you actually started pushing it, it would scale in a manner that part of the spectrum would go up way too much, or unnecessarily too much as compared to the rest. So I wouldn't say it scaled really well. Overall, having said all of that, I still like the Arete. I still thought the Arete was a really competent IM. And when I did compare it and talk about it versus the Estrella, and the Estrella I really enjoyed, although the Estrella had a very big V-shaped kind of a sound. It made up any possible, let's say, flaws that big V-shaped sound had by conferring the extra amount of bass that was needed to make that part of the spectrum up higher not in any way come across as overly done or overly aggressive or anything. No, it was detailed, and the Estrella is a very detailed IM, and when I show the curves between the Estrella and the Arete, the original, you'll see. But the fact that it had that extra bass energy made everything up top that maybe got a little bit out of bounds when you started pushing the volume not be so, and it scaled significantly better, and overall was a better, a nicer sounding IM, at least for me, although it was more V-shaped in its nature. Okay. On the excuse me, on the Arete 2, what have they done? As I mentioned, this bass switch here provides us with two possible bass curves. One, the bass curve of the original Arete, and the other, the bass curve of the Estrella. What is the nice thing about that is, if we leave it in the off position, we get the goodness that the Arete 2 was able of doing, but without then having the problem of it's not scaling properly when you started pushing the volume, because that area there of 4 to 8 was overly done, was overly cooked, let's put it that way. Let me just put here quickly the graph. There you go. Okay, and let me take this one out of the way here. So because on the Arete 2 we have that 4 to 8 kilohertz area being brought down a little bit more, everything now sounds significantly more balanced. We no longer have that issue with scaling, and the overall presentation is still clean, it's still detailed, but way more natural. Okay. You switch on the bass, or you give it the bass boost, which is a good solid 3 dBs, I would say, and this thing becomes a bass monster. Yes, it loses its clarity in the mids. It doesn't maintain the amount of clarity that we have with the bass switch off. But if you want to listen to some EDM, you want to blast your ears, and you want to listen to some rap or something, definitely go for it. And the bass driver, or the dynamic driver used here, handles it beautifully. Again, because you are getting this bass boost, things become not as balanced sound wise. It's a more bass heavy, more darker sound, but the driver itself does handle that extra bass energy and plays well. I would say, if I want to nitpick, that maybe it sounds a little bit muddy here or there, or not as fast as it could be, because it doesn't have the energy level that you get, for example, on the original Arete, or the energy level that you have on the Estrella. But I mean, that's really not a nitpick. You already know that if you put the bass switch on, you're going to get a bass monster. I think, and that's how I listened to the ARETE 2, I listened to it with the bass switch off most of the time. And I think that with the bass switch off, it is a really, really nice IEM. I would go as far as saying that it far surpasses the original ARETE, in my opinion. So that definitely justifies, let's say, the $30 price increase. And I would even go as far as saying that it is better than the Australia. And that's already a tall order. The Australia is a really solid IM, and but I would say it's better than the Australia because it's capable of being more natural than the Australia. The Australia works in that V energetic type of signature that it has, but if when I want to now take advantage of it being more natural sounding, more organic, the ARETE 2 does the job better. As compared with, for example, the Odyssey 2, and I brought out the Odyssey 2. I don't think that the biggest difference that I felt, honestly, was in terms of, let me just quickly, my second, where is it? Odyssey 2, number 9, exactly. Wasn't necessarily, well, it's definitely not in the bass, because the bass of the Odyssey 2 and of the ARETE 2 in the bass switch off, it's the same bass. There's a little bit more energy between 200 and 800 hertz, more or less. I'll show it to you afterwards. But it wasn't necessarily there that I saw or listened or heard the biggest difference. The biggest difference was, of course, in that 1 to 3 kilohertz area, where this meta style of recessing the mids in the Odyssey 2, you notice that you lose some of that forwardness of the vocals that you have here on the ARETE, which is very nicely done. It's not entirely perhaps a fair comparison, because there are definitely two completely different styles of tuning. So I would probably say that it would be more correct to have these two as side grades to each other. But the fact that the Odyssey 2, which is an IM that I praised, and the ARETE 2 is capable of being on the same, let's say, level of praise, even though it has got a different tuning style, I think it's already a testament to how competent the ARETE 2 has been tuned, in my opinion. As compared to the Horizon, I feel that the Horizon is probably the IM that ZIIGAAT has made or has offered up to date that ticks the most right boxes, and it will satisfy the most or the widest variety of people. The ARETE 2 does do a solid job, and it comes pretty close. I mean, this is a 1+2+2. It trades two BAs for 2 microplanars, so it's kind of like the Clinical Blessing, the Dusk version, the latest version that he did. And you know, I haven't listened to the Dusk. I've just got the Blessing 2, the previous one, and the Blessing 3. Compared to those, this is a better IM, in my opinion. Okay, my opinion is compared to the ARETE. I think what it gives compared to the ARETE 2, my apologies, is the ability to have the clarity of those microplanars working in the higher frequencies in a manner where you don't have any aggressiveness, in a manner where you don't have any issues with scaling, but you still get that extra amount of detail, which in the ARETE 2 is lacking because of that, let's say, keep it safe approach that on the original one, because they tried to overcook it, maybe wasn't as well, wasn't as successful. But having said all of that, and I would definitely say that the ARETE 2 does probably at this point in time, and you know, we have a lot of IMs from ZIIGAAT, make a point for being probably the most solid IM following the Horizon in terms of its performance and what it can offer and what it cannot offer. Granted, as I said, there is a $50 price difference here. It's questionable whether, okay, maybe give those extra $50 and get straight away the Horizon. I think here the ultimate decider will be how do you like your highs? Do you like your highs more organic, more old school but detailed, which is the case here, or do you like them very detailed, very organic, and maybe just a little bit here and there colored, but they are so well done, so well executed, the high frequencies here in the Horizon, that I would even I struggle to even call it colored, to be honest. This is an IM very much like the EPZ, the EPZ, my apologies, the EP321 from Binary. The way that they've actually implemented the microplanar RCA has been so well done that it just sounds phenomenal. It just sounds truly phenomenal. The Horizon is a very, very good IM, period. And that's it, guys. ARETE 2, solid IM sound-wise. In terms of its sonic performance, nothing to be said there. It's taken the lessons learned from the original and from the Australia, and the Australia especially is the one that stands out between those two. But they've taken, let's say, the DNA of those two. They've kind of had a love child, and that love child is the ARETE 2. It's taken the best that either one had to offer, and improved even still a little bit here and there, and offer that product that sonically is superior to those two. I just feel that visually it's a little bit let down. I would have honestly really liked for this faceplate to have maintained itself, the style of the other ZIIGAAT products, or then if you wanted to make such a radical change, make something that looks really, really the business. I mean, even the way that these, the name, ARETE is done, and everything, very, I don't know, come on, guys, you can do better than this, okay? ZIIGAAT, you can do better than this. And Fresh Reviews, I believe that you are a person of better taste than this. I'll leave it at that. Anyway, just quickly show you the graphs and we'll wrap it up. Okay guys, so let's talk now graphs. Alright, I'm gonna start off by showing you the graph of the original ARETE, which is this one. Nice graph, nothing really offensive here apart from this extra bit of energy here, which, when you start pushing the volume, it doesn't allow the IM to scale as nicely as I would have liked. In terms of the bass performance, lower mids, upper mids, really nothing up to 4 kilohertz, I've got really nothing to say about the ARETE 2. It's a really nice, solid sounding IM that at low volumes does perform really well. Detailed, nothing really, honestly, nothing to be said. It's just the way that it scales and it becomes less polished. It becomes, I would say, even maybe a little borderline fatiguing at times. So careful choice of source is definitely a reality. So that's the original. This now I'm going to show you is the ARETE 2, okay? Without the bass boost and with the bass boost, so you can see that there's a solid increase here. Let's take 50 hertz for example. We go from 83 to 86, so a solid 3 dB gain there, okay? The rest maintains itself. If on the no bass boost we have a 100 hertz point corresponding to close to 2 kilohertz, but everything is kept in within nice balance. The bass boosted version, I mean, completely overflows and makes the sound, warmer, thicker, engaging for certain genres, but not so audiophile. Now, what I was saying about the Australia, and I'm trying to find the Australia now, Horizon. Australia, exactly. Make the Australia, make it pink. I hope you guys will see the Australia. There we go. What did they do with the Australia, or rather, take away this? The Australia very much V-shaped, and when you compare the Australia with the ARETE, you can see what I mean. Compared with the ARETE, similar-ish up here, but definitely they got that extra bass energy, which then allows us to get away with any aggressiveness or any harshness here, but very much V-shaped, while the ARETE was not as V-shaped. The ARETE almost had times where you could kind of say it was neutral-ish bright, not exactly proper, but almost. The Australia was definitely very much a V-shaped signature, very intense, but very well done, very well done. So on the ARETE 2, they've kind of married the two. They've taken, ARETE 2 with the bass switch on. With the bass switch on, you can see that the ARETE 2 kind of is the same as the original as the Australia. It just has a more controlled mids, upper mids, and treble, as you can see there. And when I throw in the ARETE, you'll see what I mean. So it kind of follows more of the original ARETE's mids to upper mids, with less energy than in the treble, and goes in fetch with the switch on the bass of the Australia. Now, what does that all then translate to? As I said, if the bass switch is off, it's the lower line here, sounds very balanced, very detailed, it's a nice, really audiophile type of presentation. It's very organic, it's very musical, it's very realistic, very natural sounding. And when I show the next graph now, you'll see what I mean. When you put on the bass switch, it becomes a bass monster. But where did I think the inspiration ultimately for the way to tune, or for the way that they wanted the ARETE 2 to sound came from? I think it came from the horizon. And let me now put here the horizon, and I'm going to put it in red so it really stands out. Okay, so here we go. Here is the horizon. The horizon, as you can see, and the ARETE 2 share a lot of similarities in the tuning. A little bit more bass energy there, yes, but that's more because of the fact that the horizon is kind of more tucked as opposed to gliding. The mids and upper mids are very similar, a little bit extra energy there, but very well controlled, and by no means it goes out of bounds by what you're getting from there. And the rest is very similar. So when I say that the ARETE 2 is a solid alternative to the horizon, I mean it, and you can see why I say that, why I'm calling that comparison. The difference here will be in the way that the higher frequencies are done in one or in the other. In the one, they come across a little bit more restrained to guarantee safety and polish in the way that it's done, and on the other, on the horizon, they are more intense, more in your face there, but that does also bring with it certain aspects. It does help even make the bass a little bit more incisive, but at the end of the day, it still sounds natural, it still sounds realistic. It's I like making certain analogies, but this time around I really struggled to find a solid analogy that I could make. What I can say, and as I mentioned before, is that the ARETE 2 is a little bit more natural, a little bit more restrained in the highs. The horizon will be a little bit more intense in the highs, but that intensity that it has doesn't necessarily mean that it's aggressive or anything of the sort. No, I actually feel that it makes the whole presentation of the horizon become even more special, precisely because of that extra energy that you have. And it all comes down to the usage of those microplaners. It's as simple as that. Anyway, guys, as always, like and subscribe. Any questions you might have, please feel free to ask me, and I'll see you in the next one. You take care now. Bye bye.